What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. Before we start this video, make sure that you like and subscribe if you like our content. And you know what? Even if you hate it, hit us with a subscribe because you'll love to hate us. Tom, how are you tonight?
Oof. We need to talk about, UFC 264 and some of the fallout from the past weekend. We could go over some of our picks. I did pretty well, except for the main two that I was mainly invested in. Didn't go my way. A lot of hate on Conor McGregor now. A lot of people are surprised that he talked shit after losing. I don't see why you would be surprised about that. Like, he it seemed like a pretty on par character thing to do for the mindset that he was in and the way he lost. But you know what? Everyone's going to have their opinion. So, excited to get into it. And, hey, another good card coming up this weekend.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely not a card for casuals. With that being said, we do have somewhat of a casual on with us tonight, but he's also our lacrosse guy over at pickinwinners.org. Check it out if you haven't already and follow all the Instagram pages, the Twitter, all that. But his name's Tyler. He goes by T-Ho on our website. He covers college lax and the PLL, the newly formed Professional Lacrosse League. Tyler, how are you tonight?
Doing all right. Happy to be here. I'm going to hopefully learn some things about UFC. I know Keith and I have talked about it in the past at various points. You know, obviously being a part of Pickin Winners, this is what you would consider to be the flagship show of our little group here. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be a part of it.
Well, we're very happy to have you, man. We appreciate you, jumping ship from the last place and following us to shore. So, we'll kind of start off with our recap of last week. We'll keep it quick for you guys. You had a great night, Tom. Me, not so much. I believe you went, 8-3?
Yeah, by my count, I went 8-3. We had Brad Tavares on the undercard, as well as Ilya Topuria taking the win over Ryan Hall. A little bit of me calling it perfectly, to be quite blunt with you. Ryan Hall, we just saw him get exposed a little bit. And, at the beginning of the fight, he mentioned that he did break his left hand. So maybe that has something to do with why he was constantly attacking with it was an Imanari roll, kind of more of just a front somersault. I think trying to get Topuria to either engage in the wrestling. Keith, you thought he was gonna. I thought he was going to be too smart for that. Turned out he was. Another one I was counting as a win for a fight for me, or for a pick for me, is I said to take the under, take the fight to not go to the distance in the Trevor Giles versus the Duplessis, as he so nicely told us with a awesome accent. It is Duplessis is how it's pronounced, and he got the win. It was a nice knockout. It was great to watch. It was very exciting. It's kind of just what I said. And then you go into the main fight, Michel Pereira. I think he might have lost that one, to be truthfully honest with you. It was a real toss-up. It was another banger of a fight that we thought was going to be pretty good, and we thought it was going to be a toss-up going in. Glad to fall on the right side of that one. Keith, you beat me here with Carlos Condit. I thought Max Griffin was not going to be able to withstand the caliber of competitor that Carlos Condit was and still is. But good for him. Good on Max Griffin. Maybe he did. He was fighting against lesser opponents before this. Now he's showing that he can step up and do it in the big leagues when he really previously hadn't when it came to names and staples of the division. So good for him on that one. O'Malley should really take this one as a disappointing loss. He thought he was going to go in there first round head kick and knock out
Chris Moutinho.
Chris Moutinho. How did I forget his name? Chris Moutinho honestly probably stole the show, being that he went in there and granted took a brutal beating for 2.5 rounds. I think he probably could have finished the fight. I think the fight could have been finished in maybe the first, definitely the second, at any time in the third. But you probably also at that point still moving forward, still defending himself, admittedly not well. But I think Chris Moutinho definitely should have been able to go the distance in the fight. I think Herb Dean kind of jumped in a little early there. But if you're Sean O'Malley, you should have been able to KO this guy who was coming in, without any professional UFC fights, any big name brand promotion fights. This was really O'Malley's stage for him to get another amazing knockout. And granted, he did perform well, but he didn't get that knockout, and he allowed, for lack of a better term, an unknown guy, an unexperienced guy, go what I consider the distance. And I think O'Malley should really view this as a loss. Kunitskaya, she didn't win. I called her to win. It's actually, I counted it as one of my losses, although I don't think it was a loss, because I did tell everyone I talked to, and I put it up, that, when Irene Aldana did not make weight, missed it by 4 pounds, I was suspect that she was gonna, maybe, not saying she missed weight on purpose, but a lot of times when they miss it by such large amounts, they realize that they're not gonna make it. They kind of pull back on the gas a little bit, and it allows for them to have an easier weight cut, go in there a little heavier, and use that as an advantage. So I didn't feel comfortable with Kunitskaya after we learned Friday morning that Irene Aldana is gonna weigh in 4 pounds extra. So I switched my pick, but it's all right. We're going on here. I'll still count as 8-3, but for everyone counting, maybe a 9-2. There might be a case for that. Tai Tuivasa went in there, took a nice, I believe it was a left hand to Greg Hardy, ended his night early. Greg Hardy looked a little wild, looked a little out of control, and Tai was composed. And he had a great celebration with all the shoeies. And I can't say that I would have taken random beer out of random people's shoe, especially when they start throwing in like hot sauce. And I'm guarantee you someone probably spit in one. So not for me. Stephen Thompson, that was unfortunate. That was a loss that, I'm going to have to wear, as well as the Conor McGregor one. I thought Poirier had a chance to win. Actually, after, Keith, you gave your explanation as to why Conor was going to win, I said, I hope, I wish, maybe it would be great. So you could tell that I wasn't feeling it. I thought Poirier was going to win. I had that gut feeling. I went with my heart for Conor. What are you going to do? I don't understand why people are, kind of coming at him so crazy for the way he acted at the end. I think that was kind of on brand. The only thing he really could have done in that point, people are saying that Dustin's elbow when he checked a body teep is what broke his leg. I don't think so, because the teep that they point to, clearly Conor's foot gets through the elbow and hits him right in the stomach. You can watch in the picture, you can see Dustin's elbow completely overlaps, and then the foot of Conor McGregor, the left foot, is behind it. Like any spatial awareness or recognition, looking at the pictures, you can tell that clearly that didn't land on bone. So I'm skeptical of that theory. I don't know what happened. I think it was probably more of a freak thing. And, we've seen in multiple fights where the guy was losing the first round and comes back and beats the second round. Just because Conor's typically better in the first doesn't mean he can't be great throughout the fight. Mind you, he won a 5-round fight against Nate Diaz. He went to the 4th round with Khabib Nurmagomedov. I don't think that this is a guy that can only do it in the first round. So to say that, if he didn't get him in the first round, he's done, I think is asinine. And then, that's my thought on that. And finally, Stephen Thompson and Gilbert Burns, great piece of just overall mastery of MMA by Gilbert Burns, getting in tight, taking Wonderboy down. He was getting beat on the feet, but ever so slightly. He was at least able to contend. He was able to hold Stephen Thompson against the cage. He was able to take him down. He was able to beat him up on the ground. Not many people can do that. Was that because Gilbert Burns has gotten much better since his last fight, or was it because Stephen Thompson is now 38 and time is catching up to him? Did we see a bad Wonderboy? Did we see a great Gilbert? Did we see a good Wonderboy and an even better Gilbert? I'm not too sure. I'm excited to see what Gilbert does next. I think that'll be the true caliber. And, tough to see Wonderboy getting a shot at the title now.
Totally agree, man. And yeah, it's sad for me because my few points, just going back to last week, said Wonderboy was probably going to win and then move on to get a title shot, which really looked like it was possible before this one. I will note, though, we had an episode probably a month or two, maybe a month and a half ago, where we were picking a lot of future picks. I did pick Gilbert Burns back then. Kind of wish I would have stuck with that. But I got a little bit of that Wonderboy fever going into this week. Also, Ryan Hall, still a fan. That left hand, tough to fight when you have a broken hand. Kudos to him for still going in there, that nonchalant attitude. I saw one funny tweet at the weigh-ins where he's like on the scale, doesn't look like he wants to be there. And someone tweeted, is someone forcing this man to do this right now? I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Plus, you got Chris Mutino. You mentioned it. You called it perfect. You know what I think happened there? I think Herb Dean probably had a ton of money on Sean O'Malley for the knockout.
Yeah, that's it.
And he had to call the TKO before the fight was over. There was about 30 seconds, and he was like, if I don't call this now, I'm losing my house, and my wife's going to leave me. So that was probably the case there. And then, but also with that Wonder Boy fight, just to go back to that real quick, it was kind of boring, man. Like, yeah, obviously great knowledge of MMA and, but I was still hoping to see that head kick knockout or at least just like a power brick right hand out of Gilbert Burns there. Yana Kunitskaya, you hit the nail on the head with the 4 pounds of missing weight. Honestly, kudos to Yana and her team for still letting Irene Aldana fight in that matchup, because even Aldana said it afterwards when talking to Joe Rogan. She didn't have to let me take this fight. She could have said she missed weight and now I'm not fighting her. Throw in whoever who was on standby, or just cancel it all together. So kudos to Yana there. But yeah, dude, tough night overall for me. My 2 actual main card locks did hit though. Got lucky with the Sean O'Malley TKO win and the under in one and a half rounds for plus 160 for the Greg Hardy and Tai Tuivasa fight. So those were 2 big locks for me. When Greg Hardy hit the ground, I know I called him to win that one, but it was more of an iffy one for me. But that was the lock. And when that happened, within probably, I think, was it under a minute, that knockout? I don't even know, but it was incredible.
It was close. It wasn't long.
Yeah, and when that happened, stood up. That's where I had the bulk of my money on Saturday night. I was very happy because it made up for the losses later on in the night. So, with all that being said, real quick, Tyler, what was your take on it? Did you watch the event?
I was not able to. I was out of town for the weekend, unfortunately.
Okay, well, hopefully you at least saw the highlights. And, Tom, I do want to mention, with that Conor steep kick that was blocked by the elbow, slightly disagree with you there, just because I do kind of think that might have been what did it on the body kick, blocked with the elbow, because the very second that he puts his leg down, he switched his stance. That was with his right leg. That was in front at the time. He switched back to southpaw. So I think there was part of him that kind of knew he was a little bit damaged, where it's like, okay, let me get the weight off of this leg. And when he stepped back 2 seconds later, that's when it was compromised. I don't know. I could be wrong. It could have just been a freak thing. Still glad. I think it went down as a doctor stoppage, like he was screaming and yelling for right before he said that he wanted to kill Dustin Poirier in his sleep. Did he get the doctor stoppage?
Yeah, it's still a doctor stoppage. I don't think that's ultimately going to change. But I mean, it's really hard to say. Maybe there's another angle that's going to come out where we're going to be able to see it a little bit better. But from everything I saw, going back and watching it kind of frame by frame, I see the foot land. I don't see it catch much elbow at all. So, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, it's up to interpretation at this point. You notice John Kavanagh, Conor McGregor's head coach, he said that it was because of the elbow, but he also is falling off really big time right now. John Kavanagh, it might be time for Conor to say goodbye to you and move on to somebody new. My favorite part about Conor on Saturday night, though, was that as he was going down, he did attempt to lock up a guillotine, and it looked for a while there like he had it. I was really, really hoping that Conor would win by submission. Be proud about it, because where my mind went immediately was to the interview that he had with Stephen A. Smith, in which he said, I don't count submissions. I don't count decisions as wins. I only count knockouts. Was really hoping for him to get a submission win in that fight, despite everything that he said to Stephen A. that day. So, it just would have been funny. There would have been memes of it regardless. Still hope they run it back for a fourth one, because I don't think that there was a clear, obviously he broke his leg, but I personally don't believe that there was a clear Dustin won this fight. You never know what adjustments Conor makes in between the first and second round. Despite what I said bad about John Kavanagh, he still is good at advising Conor on what adjustments to make between rounds. So, I still think that there was a chance there. With all that being said, let's jump into the main card or actually any prelim locks. I know you have one, Tom. I don't have any prelim locks on this one, so you give us yours.
Yeah, I have Daniel Rodriguez getting the prelim win over Preston Parsons. I just think that Daniel Rodriguez is D-Rod is an up-and-coming prospect in the UFC. I think this is a fight that they're putting just before the just before the main card to try and build him up a little bit. Previous win against Mike Perry, in which he completely outclassed Mike Perry back in April. Granted, you could say Mike Perry's going out, but Mike Perry's still a tough competition and a tough guy. He also has wins over Tim Means in one of his first few UFC events, and he got that via guillotine choke. I think Daniel Rodriguez is a guy who we could potentially hear about a lot more. Just turning 30 years old. I think we could see a lot of Daniel Rodriguez. Or not 30 years old. He is 34 years old. Sorry. So still about in that prime time. I think this is where he turns it on at 14-2. I just like him a lot in this matchup against Preston Parsons.
Yeah, I like him here too. So you know what? I will tail you on that pick. Tyler, what do you think? Are you gonna tail him here with D-Rod as well?
Listen, if it's the prelim lock, I'm all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, it has lock in it, so you kind of got a tail there.
Tapology has Daniel Rodriguez at a 93% favorite with 71% of that by TKO. And going over and checking what the folks at FanDuel have to say. If I could find it here. Hold on.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Like, what are the line? I guess if he's that heavily favored, what's the line there on a win for him?
Well, that's a good question.
I think he is in the minus 200 family.
So the nice little parlay juice right there, would you say, Mr. Tom?
Yeah, I'm not sure why this isn't coming up. Maybe they don't have it on here, but yeah, I can't get anything for him right now. But either way, I still like him a lot. I think I like him as a lock. Maybe as we get closer to the fight, they'll find it, or maybe I'm just missing it on the DraftKings or the FanDuel website. But
I'm sure as we get closer to the fight, it'll be posted because you do have to keep in mind. I mean, we're filming this on Monday right now. The event's on Saturday. Odds are going to be posted. Odds are going to change. Someone could get hurt. Someone could get COVID. Someone could miss weight. So, with that in mind, these odds and these fights are always subject to change. Hey, there is one thing I do want to mention that I completely forgot talking about UFC 264, and I'm just going to say it right now. Michelle Herrera, backflip. Jesus Christ, what was that? Anyway,
yeah, that was nuts.
That was crazy. There's not much to say.
It kind of worked because he landed in top mount, or he didn't land in mat mount, but he ultimately transitioned and was gotten to top mount. So.
Yeah, and his foot landed on Nico Price's face.
Odds for Daniel Rodriguez is minus 215 with Preston Parsons at a plus 172.
Okay, I like that, actually. I like that a lot. So you ready to jump into the main card, or you got any more for us?
Nope, let's do the main card.
Okay, so up first we got Gabriel Benitez versus Billy Quarantillo, a.k.a. Billy Q. Looks right now as if Gabriel Benitez is coming in around minus 195. Billy Q coming in at plus 165, depending on where you're looking at the moment. Still not bad lines, I mean, even if you're feeling Benitez, minus 195, good parlay booster like Tyler mentioned. Billy Q plus 165. I like that line for him, and I do like Billy Q in this fight for a couple of reasons. Number one, when I go back and watch Gabriel Benitez's old fights, I notice his gas tank absolutely stinks. He's very much a one-round fighter. And that doesn't really fare well against a guy like Billy Q, because Billy Q is tough as nails. What was that thing from SpongeBob? I ate nails in my cereal this morning with no milk. I think Billy Q probably eats nails for breakfast every morning. That's just how tough this dude is. And he'll swarm you. I mean, if you're a casual out there watching this and you think that Dustin absolutely mauled Connor this weekend, then you're going to see what Billy Q is going to do to Gabriel Benitez, and you're going to be like, okay, that's a real mauling. Because when you think about pressure, right, okay, yeah, this guy's in my face, taking a couple of punches. Billy Q takes pressure to a whole other level, and he sustains his gas tank while he's putting pressure on another guy. And, when you're putting pressure on a guy like Benitez who can't really keep up like that, well, his cardio is going to fail him. So Billy Q, I'm taking him. I don't want to call this a lock per se, but this is one of my favorite picks. I'm a huge Billy Q guy. I don't know many UFC MMA fans who aren't Billy Q guys. So give me the money, Billy Q plus 165. Tom, what do you got for us there?
Yeah, Billy Q's just at this point a little bit more developed. He's slightly younger, but a little bit more of a developed as a fighter anyway. He has a little bit less power, but I think he has more longevity in his fights and longevity in his career, honestly. I think he has the intangibles to get it done here. I have him as a slight favorite or even. So the odds that have him at plus 170 as a slight underdog looks pretty appetizing from a betting perspective. So I'll definitely put money on the kid since, Gabriel Benitez is coming down from 155, so this isn't his natural weight either. So I think, sometimes that can cause problems with weight cut, and then with stamina. Somebody who has, previously had problems with stamina before going down isn't necessarily, that's not a weakness you want to have if you're going to go down in weight. Sometimes if you go up in weight, your resting can get better as well as your chin going down. Usually you're taking a lot away from yourself. So I'll be interested here. And it's somewhat short notice because Billy Quarantillo was supposed to fight somebody else, and Gabriel Benitez had to step in, I believe, on about 11 or 12 days notice. So yeah, I really like Billy Q here, especially with the underdog odds.
Tyler, what do you think? Are you going to fade us, or we didn't really make any arguments in favor of Gabriel Benitez here. We didn't really see any paths to victory for him. So, you going to tail us? You going to fade us, or what?
I mean, how can I not tail? I mean, I can appreciate somebody who has, like you said, the gas tank that's always full, who can go the distance, who doesn't get tired, who can overwhelm and conquer their opponent. So how can I not take a little underdog juice?
Absolutely, dude. You know what? I'm looking at my phone right now. I want to lock that in right this very
Yeah,
second.
it's so tasty because because the way you guys are speaking, I could see a lot of the other UFC, talking heads that, we only want to take the, juice this line. They're going to, maybe drop him down, but it's looking real tasty right now. I'm not going to lie.
Totally agree, man. I want to get it before those lines move. So next up, we got Rodolfo Vieira. Looks like he's coming in at around minus 230 here versus Dustin Stolzfus. That's an interesting name. At plus 180, Stolzfus. Sounds like a sneeze. All right, so some of the stuff I like here, I like Rodolfo here. I like Rodolfo Vieira big time. Unfortunately, he's a guy that does gas out. So, that kind of makes what I said about Billy Q and about Gabriel Benitez. It's like, okay, you're going back on that gas out argument. But, I think that Rodolfo has a good chance of ending the fight early. You know what? I'm switching it up, man. I'm switching. I'm going with Stolzfus here because the more I think about it and the more I read my notes, it's like, okay, I have more negative stuff about Rodolfo Vieira here. You know what? I like Stolzfus. Cardio, big thing, like we just said. Okay, so Dustin Stolzfus doesn't gas out as bad as Rodolfo Vieira. Plus, he had one of his last fights against, I think it was one of the Dawkins brothers, and he lost that one, but he still looked really, really good. So I like that a lot. I don't know, man. I had a lot of stuff to say about Rodolfo Vieira, but the more that I read this, it's like, you know what? It kind of favoring Dustin Stolzfus here. I think at plus 180, that might be another value underdog. That's the first time I've really done that, changed my pick live on the show as opposed to what I had going in. So, Tom, let's hear what you have to say. I'm curious who you're going with here.
Yeah, I'm going with Rodolfo Vieira. He lost on the ground to Kyle Dukakis, like you said. He did not. Rodolfo Vieira lost to Anthony Hernandez on the ground, who is solid on the ground, but Rodolfo Vieira, that's like his main area. Even his pictures on Tapology are him and a gi. So being such a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert, you really shouldn't be getting guillotine choked. However, that being said, Kyle Dukakis was the one who previously holds a win over Dustin Stolzfus. And I didn't personally get to watch that fight, but you said that he ended up looking good in that one. But looking at the significant strikes landed, 64-32 in favor of Dukakis, 2 takedowns to 0, 1 submission attempt to 0, all in favor of Dukakis. Unanimous decision loss Dustin had against them, and that was back in November. So now we're looking at a little bit of a layoff there. Rodolfo Vieira just losing in February, looking to get back at it. He was winning that fight. He did have 4 takedown attempts before getting submitted. And he's got some good wins on his resume before that. Sarbi Safanov, Oscar Pichola, submitted both of those guys. So I think, he is coming in off of a loss, but I still think he's going to have the chops to get it done. I think he's going to go in there and have a vendetta to prove that his grappling is where it is, and his last loss was just a fluke. I think he still has a good shot against a worthy grappling guy. I'll stay away from this one just in terms of my wallet because Vieira is such a heavy favorite. Not heavy favorite, but I have him at minus 250 here. I don't want to take that given I think it's a lot closer of a matchup than these odds are right now. So we're kind of seeing the opposite of what happened in the last fight. We all think it was going to be a lot easier of a decision. We all thought Billy Q was going to win, and said they have him at the underdog. This one, I think it's a toss-up, and they have it kind of decidedly for Rodolfo. I'm still picking Rodolfo, but definitely I don't think I'm going to go for it with my wallet.
Yeah, I think I might actually throw some money on Stolzfus. And number one being is Kyle Dawkins. Like, those Dawkins brothers are actually starting to make a name for themselves right now as, like, we always mention how there's never really a good set of siblings in any sport. Well, Chris Dawkins, I believe he's the older brother. He's the heavyweight. He's definitely significantly better than Kyle Dawkins, but, like, it's not that big of a difference between the two of them besides the weight class. Like, yeah, there's a big difference in their body size, but in their skill level, not so different. So, and plus, if you're Rodolfo Vieira, like you mentioned, his strong suit is on the ground and he's getting subbed like that. Just doesn't make me feel good. It's like, if that's your bread and butter, then butter it up, man. Like, get that W in your realm. So just kind of reinforces what I like about Stolzfus here and what I don't like about Rodolfo Vieira. Tyler, what do you got there for us?
You see, you guys have me hesitant. One, because Keith decided to pull the switcheroo mid-statement, and then Tom said he's going to stay away with his wallet. So that has me, on the fence as a, like you would say, casual. The underdog juice with Stolzfus is a little tasty, but I'd stay away personally with my wallet. But I do like, I'm gonna tail him with Rodolfo as just like a, I'm with you kind of thing.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. Fair enough. I don't blame you whatsoever. Okay, so next up we got Jeremy Stephens coming in at plus 175 against Mateusz. Is that how you say it? Mateusz Gamrot?
Yep, Mateusz Gamrot.
Okay, see, I will say, Jeremy Stephens, I've got, like, as a fan, a love-hate relationship with Jeremy Stephens. If you remember Tyler, this was probably back at, UFC 205 when Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor fought. Was it that one? When Conor is saying something to Eddie, and Jeremy Stephens is sitting in the way back row, and he's like, yeah, well, when you hit guys, you TKO them on the ground. When I punch somebody in the face, they get knocked out. And Conor turns around and just goes, who the fuck is that guy? Classic all-time moment. Then you have Jeremy Stephens going to fight. Oh, man, I can't even remember who it was a few months ago, but they're at the face-off after the win.
Drakkar Klose.
Yes, Drakkar Klose. He pushed Drakkar Klose, like, way across the stage, got him hurt. So, yeah, Jeremy Stephens, he's like one of those personalities. He's trying to be a heel, but he's not big enough to be a heel. And so people just end up hating him. There's no, like, love to watch him get beat up because you hate him element there. I'm going with Gamrot in this one. Maybe it's a little bit of fan bias, but I kind of want to see Jeremy Stephens get his ass kicked. And that alone is enough for me to take Gamrot in this one. I have faith in him. I think he's a good all-around fighter, and I think that Jeremy Stephens is really starting to fall off. His heyday is come and gone. At this point now, he's trying to be more of a gimmick than a good fighter. So give me Gamrot. Tom, what do you think there?
Yeah, I think I'm also going to go with Gamrot. I think Stevens is, not I think, but Jeremy Stevens is up a weight class. He's had kind of a long layoff because he didn't really fight against Drakkar Klose. He has bad karma from the Drakkar Klose shove and the subsequent bout cancellation. He's also been in wars and he's been around the block. He's kind of an older guy. He's going to be coming in here at how old is he here? 35 years old coming in. This fight is going to be held at where's the weight class here? The fight is going to be held at 155, but remember that Drakkar Klose bout was at 145. So Jeremy Stevens is coming up a weight class against Gamrot, who's kind of in that weight class. He's a minus 250 favorite. I have it right now. Jeremy Stevens, like I said, he's been in wars, but he's been around the block. He's 0-4-1 in his last 5. Gamrot trains at AKA and is undefeated with a solid record, including grappling bouts with Gary Tunin of the Danaher Death Squad. I think he's a better, well-rounded guy. He has less overall damage taken. He's the younger guy by 4.5 years. They have roughly the same reach. He's a little bit taller. I just think Gamrot is going to be able to get it done here. And I think it's just going to be another loss for Jeremy Little Heat and Stevens. But look, I mean, we look at his record and he's fought some guys. I mean, he's fought a lot of good guys. You know, he's got a fight against Frankie Edgar, which was a unanimous decision loss. Hainato Moicano, which is a unanimous decision loss in 2017. Then he has 3 wins: Gilbert Melendez, Doohoo Choi, and Josh Emmett, all in 2018. Then he loses to Jose Aldo and Zabit Magomed Sharipov, which both of them, look what they've gone on to do. Has a loss against Yair Rodriguez, who was scheduled to fight Max Holloway. Has a loss against Calvin Kattar, who went on and fought Max Holloway. He's had canceled bouts against Arnold Allen and Drakkar Klose. He's got his losses age really well if you're Jeremy Stevens. But all in all, when you compare who he is now, going up a weight class with the amount of damage he's sustained, I mean, in those losses, he lost to elbows from ground and pound to Calvin Kattar. Unanimous decision loss. We went 3 full rounds with Yair Rodriguez, who's a hard hitter. Another went 3 whole rounds with Zabit Magomed Sharipov. I got it the first time. Jose Aldo lost with body punches and ground and pound. I mean, these decisions are actually they're violent decisions that he's losing to, getting up there in age against a younger guy who trains at a good gym. I like Gamrot.
Yeah, AKA is where Habib trained, right? Over with Daniel.
ATT is where Habib trained.
Oh,
American Top Team.
Oh, okay. I thought that Daniel Cormier and Habib trained at AKA together, but could be wrong.
No, I'm pretty sure it's American Top Team.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, AKA is still a great gym. You looking it up real quick?
Yeah, I'm looking it up, but Tapology says Gamrot trains at American Top Team.
Okay, gotcha. Regardless, American Top Team, we've mentioned this gym on here before, and do believe someone in the next fight trains there as well. But when you look at Gamrot, you look at his history, you look at his age, and then you look at Jeremy Stevens' history, dude, getting clobbered for pretty much your entire career and then going on to lose 4 out of your last 5 just doesn't spell – it spells nothing but trouble for Jeremy Stevens here. The only way that I see him
You're right. He trained at AKA. I was completely wrong. I'm sorry about that. You're right. I wanted to interject. You're completely right. They do train at AKA. I don't know why I thought it was ATT.
It's okay. I knew I was right, but I wasn't going to be like, yeah, no, I'm correct, and then have us, debate about that. But, yeah, those AKA guys, they really know how to wrestle. No doubt about it. But even if Gamrot's coming out of ATT, that's where Dustin Poirier trains. So, they really prepare their fighters well with game plans, and Jeremy Stevens is a guy with a lot of film out there on him. Tyler, what do you think? Are you tailing us with Mr. Gamrot here?
Yeah, I think I might join you on that boat. You guys brought up some really good points. Initially, I was like, oh, yeah, I do. When you had brought it up initially, I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember hearing that. I mean, it's cool that he is trying to, I guess, even later in his career, it sounds like, make a name for himself with his mouth. But as you know, this is not a verbal argument. This is a fight between 2 grown human beings. And it sounds like Gamrot is going to come in potentially more prepared. And the recent record of Stevens also speaks for itself. A lot of losses on there. And even though Tom said that he has some losses that have aged well, you know, you want to have some wins that people talk about more than your losses. So I have to go with Gamrot.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, no matter how well your losses age, they're still losses at the end of the day, especially if they were battles like the ones that Jeremy Stevens was in. And if you're in those battles, win, lose, draw, the worst thing that's going to age is your chin. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the next one. We've got Marion Reneau versus good old Miesha Tate. Reneau is coming in at plus 110. We got Miesha Tate coming in at minus 140. Just going to preface this by saying that I'm a huge Miesha Tate fan. Loved her back when she was active. And there's no question as to why they made this the co-main event or the premier fight, depending on how you look at these fight night cards. Miesha Tate, I mean, she was just an all-around badass in her heyday in the UFC. She was probably the one that gave Ronda Rousey in her heyday the hardest time possible. The two of them absolutely hated each other. I'll never forget the season of The Ultimate Fighter when Dana White didn't tell them who the opposing coach was going to be, and Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate walk in at the same time, and Ronda's just like, this bitch. Miesha Tate took a lot of time off in the UFC, mostly because of, she had like some domestic abuse issues going on, and from the way that she put it, a really shitty husband who was also her coach. And when she told him, I don't want you to coach me anymore, I want to actually have like move up to that next level, go to a gym like Top Team, like where she is now, ATT. He got really dejected, and the two of them had a spat that ended in her ending her MMA career. They recently split up. She said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm coming back. I'm fighting again. And a couple things that we got to keep in mind, possibly ring rust, possibly age Miesha Tate. But then when you look at Reneau, she's also pretty old. Tom, I think you were telling me she was 40 years old before we got on this episode.
44 years, 3 weeks, and 8 days.
So 44 years old, and she's lost her last 4 fights, I believe, and this is her last fight on her contract, I think you also said, not to steal all of your points from before. But this is all really important stuff that we have to keep in mind when we look at Miesha Tate, right? And Dana White, we know that he loves Miesha Tate. He loves those women that really helped bring the UFC to the forefront for women. They were pioneers in the sport. Not so much Chris Cyborg, because it's up to debate whether or not. Well, I won't tell that joke. We're gonna get canceled. But anyways, Miesha Tate, she was a pioneer in this for women. And it's no surprise that they're trying to do their best to get her back out there. I think they kind of gave her an easy-ish opponent here. And maybe it's fan bias, but I love Miesha Tate, man. So I'm going to be taking her at minus 140. I think she has a very good shot in this fight. I think Marion Reneau is going to be kissing the rest of her UFC career goodbye to the hands of Miesha Tate. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Marion is definitely going to lose. Her record speaks for herself. Her most recent loss is against, granted, a 7-1 fighter, but someone who hadn't really fought too much competition up until this point. At 44, you can only be so effective. And coming in against a woman who's going to be 32 years old and a former champion. Granted, it's her first fight back, but still, she's a former champion. Maybe the time off could be helpful in the sense that, it renewed her sense of urgency and her sense of fighting for the title. At 32, she can definitely still make a run. 44 is old for any athlete, but especially women athletes, they tend to not be able to go as long, especially in sports that are grueling, such as the UFC. So 44 is just a little bit older, even in this case too. On a 4-fight losing streak, it's really, really hard to turn around any 4-fight losing streak at any age, at any point in your career. But I feel like at the end is probably the hardest, especially against a former champion. This is her last fight. So, potentially a last-ditch effort. but you're also potentially getting a fighter who, like Miesha Tate in her last bout that she lost, your foot's kind of already half out the door once you know you're retiring or you're gonna leave. So sometimes the motivation isn't fully there. So we could be looking at one of two things with Marion coming into this fight. I think, potentially we talked about ring rust being a thing for Miesha Tate. Ultimately, though, I do think she gets it done. I think she's back. She's remotivated. She's in great shape, it looks like. I just don't see her losing. I don't see Marion. She actually didn't get to train at her normal gym just due to some logistical issues. So I think that's something to consider, as well as her, never being finished. I think it's going to be Miesha Tate in a decision. But, if Marion's able to continue to have that chin and not be able to be finished, we could see an issue with maybe a combination of ring rust and maybe an issue with gas tank coming into effect for Miesha Tate, and maybe Marion starts winning the later rounds, but maybe it could be a little bit too much too late, too little too late, should I say?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, it's not like a lock by any means, because it is tough when you have a comeback like after so many years like Miesha Tate. I will say this when it comes to the training aspect and potentially gas tank, yeah, it could be an issue at the end of the day. I'm not going to say it, there's no shot that it won't. But I do think that Miesha Tate, having been to the level that she's been at and having had so much time off, I would like to imagine, just to dip into the mindset of Miesha Tate in this fight, there probably is some drive like, okay, they gave me the comeback. They gave me a shot. This doesn't happen to many people this many years after they retire. You know how many people retire and then are almost guaranteed a spot on the UFC roster and signed a contract immediately after announcing a comeback? So I would like to believe that there is some sort of internal drive with Miesha Tate saying to herself, don't screw this one up. Don't take any risks. Don't take any chances in the training room. Make sure you're hitting that bike. Make sure you're running every single day. Miesha Tate knows what it takes, and I believe she's going to use that knowledge. And she has been using that knowledge in her fight team, in her fight camp, with her team at ATT, getting ready for this one. Not to mention, she's buddies with Francis Ngannou, and I feel like everybody that guy touches turns to gold. So, there was a picture of them holding, he had his arm around her. So could be an automatic dub for Miesha Tate just because of that. Maybe some of that power transferred over to her hands. Tyler, what do you have for us? Who are you taking?
Well, it sounds like both fighters have their own things coming into this bout, but dude, Pickin Winners is usually, I'm used to see sometimes you and Tom have a little bit more, it's like you make my job easy when you two agree with each other. You really do. But I like what you guys had to say about Tate, and that she had to overcome what she has and is obviously working very hard. And it's also kind of impressive that Reneau is still taking this fight at the age that she is, last on her contract. But I'm definitely going to join you guys with Tate. It sounds like in the end, with the couple, years of age she has, younger, and that she's training very hard and doing all the right things, that she will be able to get it done.
Yeah, just keep in mind one more thing too. Miesha Tate did take a bit of time off. I think she retired in like 2015 initially.
2016, yes.
Yeah, but she's still only 34.
Yeah.
Some fighters only enter their prime in their 30s. So wouldn't it be crazy if Miesha Tate just came back like even better, or fighting in an entirely different style altogether, like a OG McGregor-esque karate stance, something wild like that? I would love to see it. Love Miesha Tate for so many different reasons. At the very bottom of the list, but still important. I think she's gorgeous. So Miesha Tate, if you're seeing this and you're looking for someone less abusive, not abusive at all in your life, my Twitter @'s right there. So, hey, Miesha. So, next up, we got Islam Makhachev, however you say it, what part of the world you're in. I believe it's Makhachev, but, we might need him to correct us one day, like Dracus Duplessis versus Thiago Moises. Makhachev's coming in minus 630. Moises plus 435. I'm calling it. It's a lock right now. Islam. I don't praise Islam in my daily life, but I'm praising Islam right now. Islam is an incredibly talented fighter. Before we got on the show, Tyler was saying that he's heard through the grapevine that he's like another type of Khabib type of fighter. You couldn't put it better than that, Tyler, for, a self-proclaimed casual. Islam, he was trained by Khabib's dad. So he has the knowledge of the wrestling. And some might say, not me, but some might say that he is better at striking than Khabib was. That's just me. Some people probably tell me I'm wrong. Khabib is looking really thick in his daily life nowadays, so he's probably stronger than he ever was. But, dude, I love Islam here. Call him a lock. Dude, minus 600. Anything over minus 200 is like, that's just parlay. Give me a boost in my parlay right there. But at minus 600, you throw in $100 right there in your parlay, you might be getting an extra 20. Either way, Islam, lock, stick him in there. I don't want to say how he's going to do it, but it is a 5-round fight. I'd like to imagine he gets a finish over Thiago Moises. Maybe by knockout, possibly by submission because of those wrestling skills. That could be a coin flip, really, but this fight is anything but a coin flip. Tom, what do you think about Mr. Makhachev?
Yeah, I think Islam Makhachev is definitely going to win here. I have him on Tapology as a minus 850 favorite. Also have him on FanDuel as minus 750. So if you're getting him for minus 600, maybe take it. This guy's a huge favorite. The odds on Tapology by the fans voted on. Now we're doing this a little early, so it's only 935 people, and 94% have him in there. 66% have him by decision, and I'm going to agree with them on that one. I think he's going to ultimately win it by decision. His most recent fight went to he finished Drew Dober with an arm triangle, but I think Thiago Moises is a lot better competition than Drew Dober is. We saw him go to decision with Arman Tarsukian and Davi Ramos. I think Thiago Moises is probably better competition than them, but I also think Islam Makhachev has probably gotten a little bit better since then. So I think you can go to decision. Ultimately, you kind of send it all. Islam Makhachev doesn't really have much of a weakness, similar to Khabib. He may have better striking than Khabib, and maybe slightly less good grappling, but who really will ever know? They're both just so dominant that, I'm interesting to see where Islam goes. Remember, he is only 27, 28 years old. I think maybe he's 29, so I'm giving him too much credit, but still, early beginning of his prime, if even in. He's got better wrestling than Thiago Moises. His only weakness is that he gives up his neck, but he's previously given up his neck and escaped from guys like Nick Lentz, who have sneaky good, quick snapping guillotines and can finish you with them. Like you said, Keith, Islam is Khabib's cousin. He trained with Abdul Manap. He's at ATT, so he's at a big-time gym with big-time fighters. He's a Dagestani Russian product. I'm just seeing not a lot of things that would make me want to pick against him. And I don't know if I would include this. I guess you might want to throw it into a parlay, but it just depends on what the odds are. It might not really help you too much. It might get you back a handful of cents. And, with UFC, you just never know. So when someone is that high of a favorite, it really should give you more confidence, but for whatever reason, it gives me less. But that being said, I do think Islam's going to win, and I think he's going to do it in a pretty dominant fashion as well.
Totally agreed, man. It's so hard to bet against those Dagestanis, man. They are really something else. Tyler, are you going to be tailing our lock of the night, at least my lock of the night, or are you going to just decide to say, screw these guys, I'm going with Moises? Be ballsy, take Moises.
The grapevine also had told me that about Islam. I think they called him or the Dagestani handcuff or something along those lines. I kind of like that. It's a fun name, but as a casual, what I know about Khabib, and if there's anybody like him, somebody that's a machine, I think about, I know this is stupid, but I think about Ivan Drago in Rocky. How could you beat a machine? You know what I mean? He's, somebody who is close to perfect, somebody who is, has perfected their craft to the point where the books are putting them on almost, minus 800, minus 900 odds. How could you not?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to join you guys with him.
Yeah, dude, that minus 800 line is just crazy. But
Yeah.
at the same time, that's Vegas telling us we believe this man is a lock too. And so the people at home are not going to take any money home from him. But, I think we'll all find a way. I really would like to see him win it by submission. I think that would be fun, especially with being Khabib's cousin. So just to go back to Conor real quick, Conor had a quote with his interview with Stephen A., just to go back to that, where he said, the only wins or losses that I count in my career are knockouts. I don't count decisions and I don't count submissions. And Khabib commented on the Instagram picture of that quote and said, there's nothing more fun or nothing more manly than taking your opponent into deep waters, putting him into a submission, and showing him how much of a man he truly is. So if Islam is going to go with that similar mindset, maybe he's getting a call from Khabib like, show him the Dagestani, still got the submission game on lock. Then maybe he'll be going for something, wrapping up Moises' neck or snatching a limb from him, which I could totally see him doing. So I may throw in Islam Makhachev for a submission win. I would like that to happen. But the only way you're going to find out is if you follow me on Twitter and you check out our blogs, our Instagram blog, website name, pickinwinners.org. The Instagram is _Pickin Winners. Twitter is _Pickin Winners. And us, Tom and I, together, we are at Pickin Fights on Instagram, right? Tyler is also a member of Pickin Winners, like we mentioned before. And while he may be a self-proclaimed UFC casual, he is definitely not a lacrosse casual. This man has been on a heater like no other. Bit of an off week this week, but you know what? It happens to everybody. I had an off week myself. The winning column is still way higher than the losing column in Tyler's favor. I think you have maybe, 5 losses as opposed to 15 wins this season. We don't have to get into specifics, but that sounds way better than what it really is, unless it is actually better than that. So with all that being said, Tom, do you want to run down the picks again real quick?
Yeah, sounds good, man. So I have Islam Makhachev. We have Miesha Tate. We have Billy Q. We have Gamrot. We have Rodolfo Vieira, and we have Daniel Rodriguez. Of those, I have Rodriguez as a lock, and I have Islam as a lock.
Yeah, the one where I split up from you, those were all the same for me, except I'm taking Dustin Stolzfus over Rodolfo Vieira for that sweet, sweet underdog money.
Yeah.
Tyler has all the same picks as Tom. Do you guys have anything you want to say before we wrap this one up real quick?
No, sir.
All right. Well, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Check out our videos every week. Next week, we got a really good card. We got Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. 2 of my personal favorite fighters are on there, Miranda Maverick and Macy Barber. Really looking forward to that one. Can't wait to break them down for you. We may have a very, very special guest on that episode as well to break down that highly touted, well put together, and what should be a thrilling card for UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Dillashaw. You like our arguments, you hate them, you disagree, or we made you some money, let us know in the comments down below. Tom, thanks for joining me as always. Love having you on the show. You are an excellent co-host. I hope you would say that I'm an excellent co-host too, man, but you don't have to say it now. So, okay, thank you. Tyler, you were a great guest. It was great having you on. Thanks for giving us your Monday night, man.
Yeah, hey, thanks for letting me join, guys. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
No
Have a great night, fellas.
Hey, take care, guys.